The Middle East, a region where history, religion, and politics have collided for centuries. But in modern times, one of the most complex and dangerous tensions in the world has emerged here, the growing conflict between Iran, Israel, and the United States. This is not a traditional war where armies meet on a battlefield. Instead, it is a conflict that often unfolds in the shadows through intelligence operations, cyber attacks, missile programs, and drone warfare. The roots of this story go back to 1979. That year, a massive revolution took place in Iran, completely transforming the country's political system. The new Islamic government adopted a strong stance against both the United States and Israel. Where Iran and the US once had close relations, those ties quickly turned into open hostility. From that moment on, a new power struggle began to shape the Middle East. In the decades that followed, Iran began strengthening its military capabilities. Long-range missiles, drone technology, and nuclear research programs were rapidly expanded. Iran argued that these developments were necessary for its national security, but for Israel, they represented a serious threat. Israeli leaders feared that if Iran ever developed nuclear weapons, it could drastically shift the balance of power in the Middle East. Because of this fear, a hidden confrontation began between the two nations, often referred to as a shadow war. In this shadow conflict, many events unfolded quietly. At times, attempts were made to sabotage Iran's nuclear program. In other moments, cyber attacks targeted critical systems, and in several cases, military facilities and strategic projects were attacked. As time passed, the technology of warfare also evolved. Drones became one of the defining weapons of modern conflict. Small but extremely dangerous, they could travel long distances and strike targets with precision. Missile technology also advanced rapidly. Within minutes, weapons could now reach targets thousands of kilometers away. By the 2020s, tensions began escalating even further. After several incidents across the region, the possibility of direct confrontation between Israel and Iran started to grow. Israel carried out strikes against locations believed to be connected to Iran's military infrastructure and nuclear development. These operations were described as attempts to weaken Iran's growing military capabilities. In response, Iran began demonstrating its own strength. Drone and missile attacks were launched as retaliation. On some nights, the sky itself became a battlefield, lit up by explosions from incoming missiles and defensive interceptors. Israel's well-known missile defense system, the Iron Dome, successfully intercepted many of these threats before they could reach their targets. But this conflict was never limited to just two countries. The United States became an important part of the equation. For decades, America has been one of Israel's closest strategic allies. As tensions increased, U.S. warships, aircraft carriers, and fighter jets were deployed throughout the Middle East to support regional stability and deter further escalation. High above the earth, satellites monitored every movement. Beneath the ocean, submarines patrolled silently. Inside command centers, massive digital maps tracked missile launches and military activity across the region. The atmosphere in the Middle East became increasingly tense, a situation where even a small incident could potentially ignite a much larger war. For a time, both sides continued exchanging attacks and counterattacks. News of these events spread across global media networks. Several countries issued travel warnings and urged caution for their citizens. At the same time, international leaders began pushing for diplomacy in an attempt to prevent the conflict from spiraling further. Eventually, under growing international pressure, efforts were made to calm the situation. Diplomatic talks began, and temporary agreements helped reduce the intensity of the attacks. But many experts believe that the underlying conflict has not truly ended. The reasons behind this tension go far beyond military actions. They are deeply connected to politics, regional influence, and the complex balance of power in the Middle East. Iran seeks to expand its influence in the region. Israel remains focused on protecting its national security, and the United States continues working with its allies to maintain strategic stability. This is why the Middle East remains one of the most sensitive regions in the world. Events here can have consequences far beyond the region itself, affecting global politics, security, and international relations. And perhaps that is why the world continues to watch the Middle East so closely, because history has shown us something important. The largest conflicts rarely begin overnight. They build slowly, shaped by tension, strategy, and shifting power dynamics, until one day, the world realizes that history has taken a new and unexpected turn.